Hey, good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? Wow, let me tell you. Sorry, I'm starting so late today. I normally start at what, like 9:30, and it's already after 11. But thanks for everybody that's here today. Let me uh, let me get everything in order real quick. I just woke up so late. I was uh, I was, I don't know why. You ever start like shopping online and then just get this bug up your butt that you want to get something uh, in particular? So I was looking at like watches all night until about 3 in the morning because I like this watch. I mean, this is a nice little chronograph, but I'll show you. You may have seen it before in my other videos. Oh, everything's backwards. Oh, okay, let's see. Yeah, there we go. uh, this was my fancy dress watch, but since I bought this watch, I can't see it anymore because my eyes. I have to hold it like way far out and then everything's too small. And if I hold it up close, it's like everything's blurry. It's just a mess. But anybody else here like into watches? I know that I'm a camera channel, but it seems like what's interesting is a lot of camera channels, I'm sorry, watch channels, they'll use like a camera as a prop in their videos. There's one in the UK that yeah, watch gas, right? That's that's another rabbit hole, isn't it? um, but it seems like there's a lot of channels that like to use cameras as props. So and time to time I've noticed photographers are into watches as well. Because I've always been into watches. I've never been a collector or had gas with. Well, I have a lot of watches too, but um, I don't know. You guys into watches too? Yeah, Hans uses a cell phone, right? They're accurate. You don't need another hobby, huh, Brent? Oh, hey, Caitlin, how are you? Jomo shop for watches, huh? Ah, let's see. Oh, David, you've been doing some product shots for some watches. That's interesting. Like paid gigs or just for fun. And yeah, funny, Lauren. Lauren's a comedian. Let me tell you. Oh, this time's better for people, or at least for Hans, anyway. Patrick never worn a watch since he retired. Wow. Oh, Julie, you like to shop for watch bands? Yeah, I'm thinking of going with a NATO strap. 'Cause this strap, I have to tell you a funny story. It's a Velcro strap, but I used to wear this to the gym all the time, and I'd take the watch off, take a shower, and then I'd put it back on. Then later in the day, I'd be getting this whiff of like BO, and I'm like, where is that coming from? And then I found out it was from this watch band, because I sweat on this watch band, but I didn't. So after a few times of after I figured it out, I uh, I just would shower with the watch band on and make sure it was clean too after that, and then I would have to let it dry. So I'm thinking about just uh, anyway. That's neither here nor there. Uh, so I saw earlier while I was setting up Hans, David's using an EM1 Mark III. I forgot about that. I think you mentioned that. I'm sorry I missed your the live stream yesterday because the David is has a photography club here locally to me, and has started doing conferences instead of meeting, right? So we're having virtual conferences. So hopefully, yeah, I'm so sorry. I mean, it was so early. Like I said, the last couple days I've been waking up late. So tired. Um, yeah, John, I used to have. John says check out the Timex expedition. If you watch the intro to some of my videos where I have the Pen kind of rolling around, right next to it in the very beginning of the shot is my Timex expedition. And I love that watch. Nice, large, easy to read numbers and dials. But I lost it somewhere. I don't know where. So ever since I lost that watch, and this was probably 6 months ago, I've been kind of casually shopping watches to replace it. Because all the watches I have from back in the day are like this, like all fancy pants and hard to frickin' read. you know? So I got this. Well, actually, I did replace it with this smartwatch, um, which is okay. I mean, I don't like it. It's one of those things that it's just a piece of technology, and you don't really gather any joy from it. Uh, it's very utilitarian in my opinion. Um, it's very functional, and I love the heart rate thing and the sleep monitor, and then seeing messages come up and all that. I mean, it's really but like I said, it's a piece of technology, and I just get no pleasure from it, so I don't wear it that much. And when I used to have like the automatics, the self-winding Seikos and stuff, I love those, but they're dysfunctional because I never maintained them. You have to get those things serviced every 2 to 5 years, so it's not working anymore. So let's see. That's enough about watches. I guess I don't know. I was just so if you look at my YouTube history, there's about 1,000 watch videos now in it. Okay, first there was John Cameron Swayze Timex test. Yeah. Then came the true. Oh, yeah. I should get a Casio G-Shock, right? As much as I drop and bang things. I mean, this was supposed to be my dress watch, and it's all scuffed up. Ugh. Timex. Timex, interesting history too. Their watches are decent now. Um, yeah, watches got to be real, right? The Loris, man, titanium watch. Oh, I'll check that out. I haven't looked at the Lorises yet. I've been looking at the Orins and mostly Seikos. I just my dad used to wear Seikos, so I'm kind of there's some sentimental value there too, which you can never put a price on, right? And what's the yeah, primarily Seikos was kind of where I was diving. I looked at a couple Citizens, but I scrapped that. Uh, Hans is asking, where do you download pics to? Um, just to my computer, and then I have. But I know what happened when I reached for the hard drive. I accidentally unplugged the USB hub, which has the microphone plugged in, and then apparently that screwed up everything. Wow. Anyway, David was asking me, do I use a bracket for recording? So I put my TG5 here on the back, and then I put my other camera here on the front, and then I just mount a tripod here, like a tabletop tripod, and I hold it kind of like that. It's like a little $10 bracket, flash bracket. I got on Amazon, and it's sturdy enough. I mean, just get one long enough because sometimes the close focusing distance of some cameras, if you're going to put one on the back, you know, the TG5 is great because it has macro ability, so I can put it up really close to the camera, but uh, whatever camera you put on the back to record the other camera has to have a pretty close focusing distance and a wide enough field of view to capture, you know, the screen and all of that. So, uh, but you know, usually a 9mm body cap lens, I use that sometimes, and sometimes the 12mm lens. So if you have the 14mm works too, but then a lot of 14mm lenses don't have that close focusing distance ability, so those don't work. But anyway, that's what I do. And then I was talking about the HDMI recorder I have. It's a little Blackmagic video something, video assist that I record. But the problem when I plug that in is some of the camera features are disabled because it's routing out through the HDMI cable. So some things get grayed out, so I can't use that for everything. And it's not the same as like being in the field, right? And recording things live on the screen as it's happening. I don't know. Anyhow, uh, it's a pain. So there's about 100 comments here about no sound and video. Yes, sorry about that. Like I said, I bumped the USB hub that everything's plugged into, and the power jack is a little bit loose on it. So when the power jack came off, everything else got lost. I thought I saw another question. Um, For backing up photos, the USB plug-in drives are fine as the cloud, such as Google. Yeah, SmugMug is a good option too. I think they own Flickr. Anyhow, wow, you guys stuck around. There's more people here now than there was when I started, which is awesome. So thanks for everybody coming back every week. I almost didn't even make it today. I woke up about well, 2 hours ago, and it takes me a while to kind of get moving and get dressed and wash up and stuff for the stream and feed the dog. I didn't even eat breakfast, so I'm just running off fumes here. Oh, is the lick syncing off? A little bit, right? And my lighting's bad, man. See, I shouldn't have live streamed today. It's a disaster. Oh, I really should have just not even tried today because I knew this was going to happen. Oh, anyhow, what else is happening? We were talking about watches for some reason and cameras. Oh, thanks, Greg. Man. Some gaffer's tape for the mic connector. I appreciate that. Man. You know, I've been getting some donations lately and stuff. I really appreciate that. And the buy me a coffee thing, that really helps me a lot. Because, you know, I'm like a struggling artist, so to speak, right? Not much different. I mean, I don't need that much money, but it's nice to have a few trinkets every now and then. So you've been chasing the sundown, okay? Hans. I wonder. There's a couple of Hanses here, but I hope everything's okay. Because I remember one of the Hans was telling me that, well, not telling me directly, but indirectly, I saw some issues. So I hope you're okay, or things go well. Oh my God, thank you, Mike. Help pay for the electricity. Yeah, oh my God, I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Buy an alarm clock? No way, man. I'm not buying an alarm clock. You know, I'm kind of a nomad, right? I just don't I don't have a set time I go to bed or set time I wake up, but I should, because it's messing with my health now. I feel like, I'm starting to get a little hypertension and among other things, even though I try to eat very healthy. I mean, I treat myself once in a while, but uh, man, I just can't believe you guys are awesome. Making little donations here and there. Every little bit helps. So, what else? I did that video on ISO, right? ISO performance. I want to discuss a few of the issues there. I mean, in terms of the actual editing and stuff, it went really fast, and I had to cut out a lot of cameras because I tested everything I have except some of my Nikons. I had some Nikon D80s and I had a Sony NEX6, but those cameras are so old and the performance was not even close, to any of the cameras that I did show. And hey, Joe, how are you? and and yeah, like I said, in terms of editing, I went from a 4-second interval in the first few images to a 2-second interval. And yeah, and you have to pause the video if you actually want to see anything, right? Because you just blink and you're on the next image. But really, it worked out. The way I saw it is it worked out to 6 seconds per camera. 2 seconds and 3 images. So in my mind, I was thinking that'd be okay. Oh, okay, good, Hans. Good to hear. Cellular says, I have the EM5 Mark III and I cannot increase the auto ISO above 6400. Is it possible with the EM10? Yes, the EM10 will let you go up to 25,600. It is a limitation that Olympus has arbitrarily put into the camera for whatever reason. And the few times I've met anybody from Olympus, I said, please put it back to 25,000. The photographer should have the option to choose the limits on the camera. Why limit it artificially to 6400? And the only thing I can think of is they're just trying to avoid tech support calls. And with some of the limitations that they put on their cameras. Because somebody might set it to 25,000 and say, why are my pictures grainy, and call in and say, how can I get, I don't know. That's not a good example, but I do have some other examples that I can't think of right now. The only reason I can think of is they're trying to minimize the amount of calls they get in tech support. Probably like, the EM5 Mark III, I'm sorry, the EM10 Mark III, they got rid of custom settings and a couple other things. And there's no reason to, really, other than, that's a beginner's camera, and they'll probably avoid a lot of calls to customer support about how to use custom settings, because it's a tricky, right? I mean, I still get tripped up sometimes by it myself when I'm using it. I'm like, oh, why doesn't it do that? It should be. So I tried to make those videos to address sort of the fine print of when recalling custom settings and things don't operate consistently across different ways you can recall it. Okay. Oh yeah, Hans, that's rough, man. But I'm glad you're doing better. So Craig says, I asked a question above about starry sky with live composite. Will you do a tutorial? Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're thinking about doing astrophotography, it can be very simple or very complicated, right? Or let me rephrase that. It's very simple, but you have to do it over and over again with multiple exposures. And then when you process them, you'll need decent processing software. I mean, there's some free ones out there that you'll have to use in addition to like a Photoshop. But excuse me, it's a very involved, but it's very straightforward, right? And time consuming. And I really want to get out there and hit it hard, you know, do some astrophotography. So as soon as the national parks open and the weather's a little bit nicer, because everything's closed right now, I'm gonna make an effort to go out and do some starry or astrophotography, because you know the another viewer, Wahab, is been asking me for a year to do an astrophotography video. So, and I want to do one, but you know, you have to kind of, you know, your schedule has to be clear, the weather has to be clear, and then, uh, you know, it has to be kind of not too cold because your batteries will die before you're done, and it's, and then on top of that, you know, there has to be like no moon, right? So you have to do it when there's no moon in the sky. So there's a lot of things that have to kind of come together before you can really do a decent astrophotography. Never mind finding a location that has, you know, limited light pollution, which is hard to do here. Even in the mountains that are only about 2, 3 hours from me, there's still a level of light pollution there. It's not a deep dark sky that, you know, when I look at a map, a dark sky map, but it's 10 times better than where I live now, which, you know, I can barely see the North Star on a clear night. Never mind, you know, the Milky Way or anything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of post-production, long story short. Mike says, great ISO video. Thanks for that. Since M43 sensor is about a quarter, would you expect the ISO on M43 to be the same as full frame camera, 4 times higher? It doesn't really work like that, Mike. I mean, I think if anecdotally, when you start taking pictures and comparing them, yeah, you might say, you know, it might look like, yeah, you need to be at, you can be at ISO 800 on a full frame and then ISO 200 to get the same image quality on a micro four thirds. And that's, you know, I guess as a rule of thumb, maybe you can operate that way. But it's a very broad stroke to a much more complicated subject. Because ISO sensitivity in the camera is not fixed relative to another camera. So two cameras may not have the same ISO. Even though they're both, say, at 200, one is actually a little more sensitive than the other. So being effectively operating at a higher ISO than the other camera. So you have that kind of variable. And then you have the variable of the actual pixel pitch or diameter of the pixel itself, right? I guess they refer to it as pixel pitch. And larger pixels capture more light per square centimeter, or whatever per square millimeter, whatever the metric is, so that you have a wider dynamic range, and that gives you a little more headroom and time during the exposure. Now, if you're dealing with very fast exposures or very long exposures, that comes into play more. So when I did my test, I did it in relatively low light. You know, the only light I had was the chandelier coming into the room, because that pushes the sensor a little bit to keep the shutter open longer. So I was trying to eliminate that other variable where you're shooting at high shutter speeds at high ISOs, you know. And then of course there's the gosh, where am I going with this? The in-camera processing itself, with the AD converters and the software that they have that will affect the ultimate image raw quality. And then once that's done, you have to process it with software in your computer, right, to display it. And the raw converters of Lightroom are different than, say, the raw converter that Capture One uses or that Luminar uses, because when I imported those images into Luminar, I found that it was actually clipping highlights on both cameras, you know. But when I imported it into Lightroom, the highlights were not clipped on the Olympus camera, but they were on the Nikon. And I sent some files to a friend of mine to look at them in Capture One, because I don't have Capture One. And you know, he was getting kind of the similar results I was getting with Lightroom, but there were some significant differences in the shadow area than I was getting with Lightroom. So yeah, it's a really, so before I create a dynamic range video, I need to develop a methodology that will sort of take all of these variables that I'm aware of into account, so that when I say this camera has dynamic range of this and this one has a dynamic range of that, or this is better than that, you know, I need to be able to qualify that statement with all of these other variables into account. And you know, there are already people that do this, you know, in nauseum, right? Like DxO Mark is works hard at it, and there's another site I can't remember the name of that does a really good job. They have much more sophisticated testing methods, but I'm trying to approach it from a just guy with a camera kind of thing, right? Like if I take a picture, how much can I expect to recover with my Micro Four Thirds camera versus if I went with a full frame? And I think people will be surprised to see that there's not that much difference, you know, in my opinion. Now, like I said, I'm going to have to fully thresh out that testing for myself, and see if those, if my suspicions, you know, bear out in actual testing. Because I remember with the D750, when I bought it, I did feel like there was a big improvement in the shadow area over my D7100, which is an APS-C camera. And definitely I was doing astrophotography with the D750 and able to shoot at much higher ISOs with less noise than I was with my D7100. So, I mean, I could go on for days about all of those things, but just know that ultimately you can do astrophotography or shoot in low light with Micro Four Thirds, given the right conditions, right? My goodness, thank you, Hans. I appreciate that. Can't wait till this shift ends so I can go. Yeah, me too. My God, Joe, I'm getting a little cabin fever myself. Thought I saw something from I need closed captions for my live streams, right? What kind of photography do I do? I mean, I like all kinds of photography. Um, I mean, professionally, I do real estate, like architectural photography as a profession, which has been, I thought it would be stronger during this time, but I've lost a few jobs actually. Well, let me rephrase that. They just aren't coming out. Nobody's calling me. I don't know, maybe my photography sucks and that's why they're not calling me recently, or if it's because of the events, current events, most likely current events, right? But you never know when you're kind of independent, right? It's not like I have a day job where I go in every day. I just wait for a call or an email to get a job. And I just haven't had any in about 3 weeks, which is, yeah, it's a little rough. Companies, oh, here we go. Rick says companies like Olympus limit features like ISO to differentiate their cheaper and more expensive products. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of uh, feature manipulation in terms of differentiating their cameras, right? So, you know, they took off custom settings on the EM10 Mark III, and you can get them on the EM5 Mark III, but they limited the EM5 Mark III custom settings compared to the EM1 Mark III. And there's no technical reason for it. It's purely an arbitrary decision to differentiate the cameras. So definitely, and we'll probably see a lot of that going forward because you need to streamline your manufacturing to say, I'm going to make this one camera with the same processor, same sensor, just a different body style and different features, and then price them accordingly. But their overall manufacturing costs will be less because they're using fewer parts, or there's less research and development when they use the same sensor and processor in all their cameras. All they have to do is separate by software, and then maybe by body design, but there isn't a ton of work being done on the actual uh, of developing different kinds of sensors and processing and things, right? So it's just the way it is. So I'm thinking, if you're going to do that, why not make uh, why not make every camera have everything, just different body styles, and then price them according to the actual manufacturing cost? Because a full metal EM1 Mark III is going to cost more than a plastic EM10 Mark III. But they could have virtually all of the same features, and you could differentiate the cost that way. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not into I'm not in the camera business, manufacturing and sales and all of that. So there's probably a lot of things that go into it that intuitively I think they could do, but just make no sense in real life, right? All right, let me try and catch up here. You were chased out of the picnic area. Why, Hans? What did you do? In Skyline Drive? Oh, are you kind of local to me? I mean, meaning you're like on the East Coast? Because Skyline Drive crosses a couple of states, right? Like, well, maybe not, but it's a long road. It took me a few hours to get through it. Rob had this question on the forum answer as well, but why is black magic? Oh, yeah, I remember, Leo. I saw that this morning. I'm not that familiar with the black magic cameras, but they do use the micro four thirds mount. But I don't know what sensors and other things that they do. Uh, but they're video centric cameras, right? They're geared towards videographers and small filmmakers. So they have a lot of features built in that are very specific for that use. So the Blackmagic Cinema camera or Pocket Cinema camera is more of a tool for videographers than it is sort of a general purpose consumer camera like an EM10 Mark II or something like that. And so it has very specific features like full size HDMI ports, scopes and other video features built into the camera that uh, that are for videographers, right? It's a little bit over my head at the videography side because it's not something I do outside of just producing a few tutorials. But that's what it is. It's not meant for photographers. So it's and the reason it's so cheap, I don't know. I don't know why they can sell it for like $1,000. Maybe because it is so, because it defies logic. A very specialized piece of equipment. All I can think of is that it's a lost leader to some extent to their other products, which are very expensive. Um, so they kind of get the small filmmaker to buy their equipment for $1,000, but then they want to stay in that ecosystem. And to stay in that ecosystem of all Blackmagic gear, it gets exponentially more expensive, right? Because Blackmagic has a whole line of small filmmaker type stuff, and I imagine they do larger studios and things use their equipment as well. But again, that's a whole other world that I'm not familiar with. So don't think about a Blackmagic camera if you're gonna take any pictures ever, because you'll be very frustrated using a camera like that. The autofocus is terrible. Uh, You know, it doesn't have, well, anyway, it's not a camera I have or looked at too seriously because of it's a primarily video. Robin Wong just released a video on his using oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Capture One is a really good software. I'm trying to put together a live stream, a guest live stream with a Capture One affiliate. But he's also a professional photographer and uh, does a lot of tech support for Capture One. Hi Rob, can you say what the shadow findings were with the high ISO on Capture One? Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks like the Olympus camera was clipping the shadows a little bit sooner than the Nikon. I mean, I only got a couple of screenshots from my friend on that, so you know, you can't make any assumptions about the performance of the shadow areas based on just a couple of screenshots. But it shouldn't be a surprise, right? But the impression I'm getting is that the Nikon does favor the shadow areas more, and their internal raw processing curve tries to maintain better shadows than it does the highlights. And I remember now, you know, when I think about it, when I used to shoot with the Nikon more, I used to dial in minus a third to minus two thirds of a stop EV as my default setting, right? You can set it up as a default setting, your exposure compensation, because I did notice it was clipping highlights all the time. So I used to shoot at minus like two thirds EV as my default setting, and then I could recover the shadows if I needed to. Uh, if it was a little bit too dark, but my exposures were coming out fine at minus two thirds EV. But that's all. It was just clipping the shadows a little sooner, and there was more noise in the shadows when I was doing my tests. And again, that's something I'll have to explore. Okay. Uh, says here the virus has made me expand my horizons in the macro. Yes, a lot of macro guys, a lot of people getting in the macro lately, right? Oh, why does this keep jumping on me? Oh, David, you got your extension tubes. Yeah, I think. Did you email me or say something in the forum about that? I remember you mentioning that this morning before I got onto the stream. Uh, you had a question. I don't remember what it was now. I was going to get back to you after the stream, but since you're here, you can ask me here. I can't remember now what it was. Is there much difference between f2.8 or f4? I have the Olympus 40 to 150. It's Hans. That's one stop of light, and depending on what you're doing, that could be a big deal. So to give you an example, you know, the 40 to 150, uh, you know, if you're shooting at 150 millimeters trying to capture a bird at f4, uh, let's say your shutter speed's 1/1000th of a second, and at ISO 200, right? You want to have the lowest ISO possible. That's pretty good, but with an f2.8, you can stay at ISO 200, but bump your shutter speed up to 1/2000th of a second, right? Which is much more appropriate, especially small birds and birds flying if you want to capture that wing. But even at 1/2000th of a second, the tips of the wings will still be a little bit blurry, which is kind of cool. So it can be a big deal for certain types of photography where you need a faster shutter speed. You can double your shutter speed using a faster, you know, a lens faster by one stop. So that's where that comes into play. Now, if you don't do a lot of that kind of photography, then you know, there's not much difference between f2.8 and f4. I mean, I'm not talking about the optical quality. You know, the optical quality in f2.8 Pro lens is, you know, way above that of the kit lens. But for just general photography, you know, f4 is fine. It's just when you try to get into very specific circumstances where that extra stop of light can be a big deal. Are all the sensors made by Sony? I don't know. They make a lot. Olympus going plastic is a mistake. um, I got mixed feelings about it. I mean, I like that the M5 Mark III is plastic and lightweight. It really is. It's my tool for vlogging and photography combined. Uh, but people that are strictly photographers don't care if they save 50 grams in weight, right? Because they're happy to have a more perceived value in having an all metal body camera. So that's what I'm saying. They can make two cameras, EM5 III and EM5 3M, as if their nomenclature needs to get more complicated, right? So they'll say, yeah, we have two EM5s, because I know they do that with lenses, or some lenses do that, right? I think it's Laowa. They have a plastic version for lightweight for drones, and then they have the same lens in a full metal build, uh, for people that want that. And I'll always go for the lighter build, uh, usually, right? Usually, I don't have a problem with plastic. Well, if I ever buy a watch, I'm not buying a plastic watch, which is what this smartwatch is. It's just a piece of plastic technology. But it makes sense, right? You want this small and lightweight because it's already kind of bulky for what it is. My name is Marco, and I bought the M10 Mark II because of your great tube website and instructions. Oh, you're welcome. Marco Stroop. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Since Sony makes all of the sensors for all of the camera bands, I think they're already pretty close to the only one. Yeah, I mean, until there's some dramatic shift in sensor technology, uh, I don't have a problem with Sony making them all, but if all the cameras use the same sensor, like the Panasonic S1 is rumored to have the same sensor as the A7R3, or I'm sorry, A7 III, the A7 III, which is supposedly the same as the Nikon D780 or D750, which who knows? It there's a lot more to image quality than just the processor itself. Although the processor is sort of like one pillar of a foundation, and it's just as important as the other ones, right? The raw processing, the AD converters, all of that in cameras is each one is equally important to the sensor, in my opinion. Is there space between Rob and the Trek? No, it's just Rob Trek. Uh, no space, no underscore. Just simply Rob Trek. I'll just type it out for you. So that's my email. If anyone wants to email me, it's fine. I try to respond. I mean, my channel's small enough now that I can usually respond to everyone. But you're going to reach a point to where it's impossible, right? I'll have too many. But it takes me a couple of hours some mornings to really get through the emails and then the comments and all of that. But I can see where if I had 5 times the number of emails and comments and forums and things like that, comments in the forums or posts in the forums, it's going to be impossible. I can't spend 8-10 hours just responding, right? I didn't have any question. I mentioned it before the Amazon said I wouldn't get it. Oh, okay, okay. All right. Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, good. So there was no question about the extension tubes. The quality to compare that f4 lens might be the question. Yes, Lauren. Oh, Kostov, yeah, I know you've been mentioning that in the other streams that you bought the 12 to 100. I didn't mean to ignore you. Because time to time you guys are like in other people's streams and I'm there too, right? And you're saying hi or asking questions or just trying to chit chat, right? About like Costa was talking about his 12 to 100 in the other forum. directed to me, and I try to stay out of other people's forums in the chat section uh, in terms of activity. I'm there and I'll say hello, but I don't want to. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. Not that I'm anybody that would do. Like who cares who I am, right? But Peter and Robin and Jimmy have their own audience and own sort of way of doing their live streams, and for me to come in, and they're always happy to have me there, and vice versa. I'm always happy when they come in. I have no problems with them going back and forth with you guys all day long. It makes my job easier as I'm streaming, right? Because they can answer questions and things like that. But when I go on, I try to keep a low profile. It's just my personality to keep a low profile. Um, I don't know how to say I like to be humble without contradicting that statement, right? How do you do that? But I try to be humble, low key, and not get in anybody's way if I can help it. Because when people start talking to me in the other chat sections, uh, it's hard to as a streamer, it's hard to follow where the questions are when there's all of this interaction between two other people, right? So that's the other reason is I don't want to clutter up the chat section with a bunch of stuff when I have my own streams, so I can talk to you guys all I want all day if I want. I need to do a 24-hour stream one day. With there'll be lots of commercial breaks, but yeah, 24-hour stream. I'm thinking about it. Oh, hey Sonny, how are you? I did I do know that Kodak, because it says Sonny's saying, did you know Kodak made a Micro Four Thirds camera in 2014? Yes, I did see that. And did you know that Kodak actually made a sensor for one of the Olympus cameras? I think it was the E310 or something. Franco or Francis, I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact name. But one of the viewers in my forum, uh, it has a posted some beautiful images in my forum from his Olympus, which uses a Kodak sensor. So think of the irony of that, right? The Kodak camera today is probably using the same sensor as an Olympus, but then 10 years ago, the Olympus camera was using a Kodak sensor, right? Kind of kind of sign of the times. Let's see. That was Sunny. Julie, oh my goodness, thank you so much. That was very generous of you. I appreciate that. Um, bear with me while I realign my thing. Oh, I was talking about cost of. Yeah, it's too big and heavy for me because you were asking me in the other chat stream uh, about the 12 to 100. Yeah, it's just too big and heavy for me. I'd rather use a smaller, lighter lens if I had a specific need for it, but I can't think of any need for it because it's an f4. So I don't gain any advantages in terms of light gathering ability. Uh, f4 is f4. I mean, it's good, but if I'm going to carry something that heavy, it better be like an f.95 or something. Just, if it was an f.95 fixed prime lens, I wouldn't mind it being that heavy for that specific reason. But oh, hi, Corny. Yeah, I kind of started late. I didn't. When I was looking at watches last night, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to wake up and do a stream today, so I didn't even post early that I was doing one today. And then when I got up this morning about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I was like, uh, I can drink some coffee and get dressed and do a stream. So, I mean, I love doing these streams. I really do. I love chatting with you guys. And I learn a lot too as well because a lot of you guys are very accomplished photographers and very experienced. And I think that that interaction, even amongst yourselves, is very beneficial. And I'm very grateful that I at least we have this medium that we can kind of come together and share our experience and ideas and just overall, inspire each other, etc. Right? Um, take the guts of the M5 III and place it into a Pen F. Yeah, I would love that. But even if they didn't change a thing, if they just added some more features and a firmware update, I would be pretty happy. Because that camera has so much potential on the software side, being able to adjust the hues of colors, the saturation. Well, it does saturation now, but if they could add also hue uh, and luminance, just like you can in Olympus Workspace, because they've already done the legwork to for those things, right? All they have to do is port that back into the camera, and that would be awesome as a firmware update. I mean, there's other limitations, right? You have to have, well, anyway, let's not get too technical. I know of a Panasonic camera that could capture uh, ring satellites of Saturns. Can M43 lens ever do that? How much millimeter? Man, if you're talking about capturing the rings of Saturn, that I mean that's way beyond the scope of anything I've ever done. But typically they have very long focal lengths, like 2,000 millimeter equivalents, and then they use a tracker to track the uh, orbit of Saturn or whatever they call that, right? And then they take thousands of images because the brightness coming from Saturn is so dim uh, that you have to take a lot of exposures. I mean, I don't know if it's 1,000. I'm exaggerating, but it's a pretty involved process to get a good picture of Saturn. I've seen bad pictures of the Saturn rings, right? Like somebody took the Nikon P1000 or whatever their bridge camera is that has that huge 1 or 2,000 millimeter equivalent focal length and did get a picture of Saturn if I recall correctly. But it was kind of blurry and not very interesting. It looked like they drew it with a crayon, right? Uh, but to get a really clear shots, it's a big deal. both in terms of gear needed. So I don't know what lenses from Olympus. The 300 millimeter f4 with a 2x teleconverter is what, 600 millimeter, 1200 millimeter equivalent. So, and then you're going to be at f8. Uh, so I think you could do it. I think you could do it. But it would take, it's a very specialized area. There's no like take a picture of it and one and done, so to speak. I recently bought the M1 Mark II, accidentally dropped it on cement about 3 feet, only suffered a couple of small chips on the body. Yeah, good thing, and it still works, right? I've dropped every camera I own. I haven't dropped my EM5 Mark II yet, but I just got that one, right? And they all still work fine, you know? My PL8's a little bent up. The screen doesn't close right, but the camera still works. And the eye detect on my, yeah, I was thinking about replacing this, but it still works fine other than a couple of little things. Let's see. Stop jumping like that. Oh, hey Lars, how are you? I'm only 9 minutes behind right now. Hi Rob, if dot money no object, what is your compact walk around lens of choice? Uh, Money no object. I'd really like, actually, I think that new 12 to 45 from Olympus F4 looks pretty attractive, and it's $650. Uh, that's a relatively compact zoom with very high quality, right? From by all accounts, I don't have one, but by all accounts, that'd probably be my choice. I have a 12 to 40 Pro, but it's not very compact, right? It's an f2.8. Panasonic makes a 12 to 35 f2.8, which was on my short list, except it's a Panasonic. So you don't get all of the features in your Olympus cameras when you use third-party lenses. So that's still on my short list of lenses, but since I have a 12 to 40 f2.8, I think that would be it. Just off the top of my head. If I thought about it more, I might come up with something different, but I think that would be the lens I'd get. Rob, I understand looking for UHS-1 card. Any suggestions? Yeah, SanDisk Extreme is good. I've been buying the Samsung with the let me pull this out. You know, the little, I forget what this is called exactly, but it's smaller than a standard SD, right? I think it's micro SD. And these are the same thing as the this is the Samsung Evo Select 512 gig card. These do work in our Olympus cameras, believe it or not. Now, if you want to buy, if you're going to buy Samsungs, for example, and these are fine cards, I get really good performance, 90 megabits up and down. You want to buy the Evo Select from Samsung, because there's another Samsung out there that has the exact same specs as this Evo Select, and it's a red colored micro SD versus this one is green. There's no difference between the two, except that the green ones were made specifically for Amazon. So these are sold and shipped by Amazon only. So the likelihood of you getting a fake one of these is smaller. The red ones, you know, there's counterfeit SD cards out there everywhere. So if you get a red one, you know, the potential for it being counterfeit is a little higher. I mean, I've never bought a counterfeit card in my life, and I've bought a lot of cards. I mean, you know, I have a bunch here on my desk, right? And on the floor. God, there's one down. I found a couple the other day when I was testing all those cameras. They were in the cameras still. But yeah, so the Evo Select is a good way. It's been a great card for me. I haven't had any problems because the other card, I'm sure I have one. Yeah, there's the red version like this. Okay, so it doesn't want to focus today. But there's a red version and a green one. All right, there's the UHS-2 cards, but they're pricey, right? But those, I have one. I bought one. The UHS-2s have like the double row pins. Just for those times when I want a fast card for buffering and things like that. So maybe buy one of these eventually. But until then, you know, the UHS-1 cards, the Samsung Evo Select is very good. When you do real estate photography indoors, how many photos you take for one scene? I take usually 4 or 5. I bracket 3 plus or minus 1, and then I do 1 flash shot. If it's a really large room and my flash isn't powerful enough, I have to do a couple more. But that's not too often. And then the bracketed shots, usually I only use 1 of those, and then I use 1 flash shot in post-processing. So I have a video on it. I used to bracket 5 shots, but I don't do that anymore. It was just too many pictures, because I only use 1 of the 3 or 4 bracketed shots, so I just use 1. And I'm debating about even bracketing the shots, but it's a nice safety thing. Usually I end up using the the exposure the camera picked. I rarely need to use the +or -1 exposure in the bracketed shots, but it saved me a couple of times having it +1 EV or -1 EV. And then sometimes if the lighting is consistent, meaning there isn't a lot of mixed lighting, you know, I don't have a tungsten and fluorescent and natural, all these different light sources coming in. Sometimes I just use the 3 bracketed shots and make it an HDR, and that's good enough. Uh, but yeah, as a rule of thumb, 90% of the time I'll use one of the 3 bracketed shots and 1 flash shot, then blend those in Photoshop. Um, I've seen a few YouTube tests and demonstrations. Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking to Kathy. I find it great that you MFT guys are connected so well with each other. You should start streaming collaborative called the MFT Gang. I know I have one of those big Zoom things, but that would be crazy. It's hard to do on YouTube. It's better to do it separately. Uh, you know, and like in a photography club like David Crooks does. Those are pretty. You know, I only did the one, but that was pretty awesome, David. I really enjoyed that. The reason I might be interested in it is because it has sensor stabilization in that body, and it has Kodachrome preset that looks 99% Kodachrome. I kind of lost track of what you were talking about, Sonny. Oh, you were talking about the Micro Four Thirds camera made by Kodak. Yeah, you know, Kodak. You know, honestly, I don't think digital cameras will ever look like film, because film reacts very differently in light. You know, they're all like let's say buy a Kodachrome set for sunny white balance, and then when you take pictures in shade, the white balance is going to be, I don't know, it reacts very differently to changes in color temperature than a digital camera ever will. So if you take 2 cameras, you know, one digital and one, let's say, real Kodachrome film camera, and you take a picture of the same scene in natural daylight, you can probably get those 2 things to match, right? And then they set that profile, but then when the light starts changing, you go into a shady area and you take a picture with the film camera and the digital camera using that same profile, they're going to look very different because film reacts very differently in different light than a digital camera does, especially with white balance changes. Now, that's not to say that they couldn't additionally program some tone curves and things that adjust for shifts in white balance. But a camera, that would require a level of computational photography that I don't think that, you know, is worth the effort of people selling cameras, you know. I'm sure they could do it. Like Fujifilm supposedly does a good job with their film simulations in those kinds of scenarios where the light is changing. They're still able to maintain that filmic look, but I don't know anybody that's ever tested for it. It's all anecdotal evidence. People say that, you know, I don't know for a fact. Um, so yeah, don't get too excited about that Kodachrome look, you know, because it's I guarantee it's not going to be even close to the real thing. Oh, that's good information, Frank. They were Olympus and Kodak were partners in developing the Micro Four Thirds sensor. The MFT Mafia. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm getting so far behind here. Uh, I was a research technician for Kodak for 38 years and worked on some of the awesome Frank. See, that's what I mean. There's uh, so many of you out there that have uh, tremendous experience uh, not just experience as a photographer, but work experience in the field, in the actual field and manufacturing process, and in all the other different things that go into developing a system. So it's always great to get feedback from the community here. Craig says, I'd like a tutorial from taking the live comp of Starry Sky F through post-processing. Olympus makes Starry Sky look like magic. Like I said, Craig, I'm gonna try when I can. I will make an effort because so many people keep asking me about it. But what's funny about a lot of the projects that I take on, I'll get one really good picture. Like I took a really good picture of the moon once. I do it once because it's so much work, and I never do it again. Um, I feel like astrophotography is one of those things because so many things have to be. There's so much work that goes into it logistically, right, in terms of timing and schedule, and weather. Never mind the actual process itself of taking the photo. If I could just tip out the back door and take a Starry Sky AF or astrophotography every day, that's one thing. But it takes a lot of logistics for me to get a decent photo. Anyhow, okay. Uh, yeah, you got a good deal on that cost of $700 for a 12 to 40 or 12 to 100. Yeah, that would be hard to pass up if you were even remotely interested in that lens. I'm just not even remotely interested in it, but uh, let's see. I just tried UHS-2 SD card my M5 III using its high-speed shutter. I was surprised that not happened shutter lag and buffering. The shutter just keep operating until I checked it. Yeah, it is amazing, right, Dickie? I did a test myself and I made a video on it of the SD cards, UHS-2 versus. And if you're into sports action, yeah, definitely always buy UHS-2 cards because that buffering will save you, right? Or less buffering. But my recommendation in that video, if I recall, was just buy a good UHS-1 card for most things. The UHS-2 cards are great if if you really have a lot of post-production work too, because you can read those in fast, so there's less downtime. So if you have a lot of post-production work, even if you're not into sports photography, I recommend the UHS-2 card. But if you're into sports photography, absolutely get one. PenF needs to have best focusing being a rangefinder. Yes. And the PL8 works well. Yep. Um, oh, Ken, yeah, the E500 still has the Kodak sensor. That's awesome. Because I can find E500s a lot easier than like an E300 or 330, and they're cheap when I find them. And by finding them, I mean like at my local camera store. I'm a little hesitant to buy things online. Never mind all of the risk with that, but I like to support the local camera store if I can. I shop over at District Camera. Uh, great camera store. They have 3 shops. I've only been to 2 of them, but uh, they've always treated me right there. William Wong says, on my M10 Mark II, you say you have saved some of your settings under MySet 2. How do you load the settings to override current settings, say MySet 1? That. I have a video on doing my sets on the M10 Mark II, a recent video that you should watch because there's too many variables for me to cover without taking a lot of time, like about 15 minutes. So watch. I have a video that's about 15 minutes long that covers that. a recent one, like I did it last month or this month. Uh, let me just double check if it was the M10 Mark. I can't even remember. I still got audio. Okay, good. Where is it? Yeah, I made it on April 11th. How to use the My Sets to customize your camera. Watch that video. Um, that should, and then if you have any questions, just ask in the comments below, and I'll try and answer them. With the lockdown, I wonder if Robin can see stars from his balcony. Probably not. I think he lives kind of in the city, so he's probably got a lot of light pollution where he lives. Um, Man, thank you, Craig. I'm sorry, I just got to the part where you chipped in there. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Ektar was awesome film back in the day. Yeah, I only shot cheap film back in the day. You know, I was in college, high school, didn't have a lot of money. Robtrek, is now the biggest shareholder in District Camera. I seriously doubt it, man. There's some heavy hitters there. Rob, would you buy a digital Trip 35 with a 4/3 RD sensor with a fixed 20mm f1.8? Um, I don't know. I think Olympus had you're talking about like a Fujifilm X100 equivalent, but made by Olympus, right? Um, the Panasonic LX100, I think, is kind of along those lines. Except I don't think that's a fixed sensor, right? That's a zoom. I can't remember. But yeah, something like an LX100. I mean, Olympus could make a version like that, but I don't know if that's viable. Uh, well, that wasn't your question, right? Would I buy one is the question. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I would consider it. 20mm f1.8. I mean, you have to kind of debate, should I just use my Pen PL8 with a 20mm f1.8 from Panasonic versus buying a whole nother camera to do the same thing. Uh, but yeah, I would be interested in it if it's kind of cool looking. Uh, Meaning very authentic or very nice homage to the original Trip 35. Yeah, I'd probably get one just for the sake of it being just like I bought the Pen F because it's really a beautiful camera. So if the Trip 35 were just as beautiful, I would seriously consider it. I second District Camera and support. Yeah. Oh yeah, David's local to me, so he knows District Camera. There are MySet settings on the M10 Mark II. Yes, there is. I have yet to see MySet on the M10 Mark III. There is no MySets on the M10 Mark III. Yes, Kevin. Everything you said there is accurate. And this lockdown means that there will be a lot more local camera shops. Oh, I hope not. Oh my God. Not just the camera stores, but a lot of small businesses in general that, we all know and love. I would be so sad if they go out of business. I mean, it breaks my heart to see uh, a lot of these shops, closed, knowing what it takes to run one. Because my family is, has had small shops, mom and pop shops, right? My mom had one. And I couldn't imagine 2, 3 months of no business and I still having to pay bills. Um, Never mind a camera store that has a huge inventory, costly inventory, right? Probably millions of dollars in gear in their shop sitting there, losing money as time goes on, right? Even if, not counting the lost revenue, but just the value of the camera itself, because, Sony's probably come out with 2 new cameras since the freaking, pandemic. So all the cameras they have in stock now are outdated. What's my thought on the 75 to 300 for animal photos? It's really good in good light. In lower light, um, it's a little rough because with animals you have to keep your shutter speed up, and you know it's not a fast lens. But that said, I've taken a lot of terrific photos with that lens in good light and in some cases in low light. Um, oh, seriously? Well, Robin Wong did a video using that lens. I think taking pictures of animals. You can check his video out. He got some terrific shots with that lens. So search his channel, Robin Wong's channel, for the 75 to 300, and you'll find some really good shots there. I was going to try and show you a few of mine, but uh, they were nice. I thought anyway. Pen camera is gone. As far as I know, yeah, John. I think they got bought out by Ritz. Maybe, I don't know. And Amazon's reduced the price of the EM1 Mark III by $100. Yeah. I mean, when the camera came out, they took $200 off the top, basically with trade-in. Um, and then I saved. The camera store was offering to pay the sales tax on the camera in addition to that, so I saved another $100. So I got my EM1 Mark III for $14.99 effectively, and didn't pay any sales tax. So I got a decent deal on it, I think. Is it still functioning very well? I do like the speed of the newer processors, just limited customize. Yeah, the M10 Mark III is the M10 Mark III is a great camera, and missing that feature of being able to customize it, it's not that big a deal. Really, if I was just doing photography, I could work with that even without that. Um, I just like it, so and the M10 Mark II does uh well anyway, but yeah, it's a fine camera. And I really love it. It's beautiful. I like how it looks much more than I do the EM10 Mark II. It's just I have an EM10 Mark II, so I don't need a Mark III. Yeah, curbside pickup at the local camera stores like District Camera, that's a tough way to do business. It's not, they're the beauty of going into their store is, they are very liberal with letting you handle the cameras and test them out, right? They know me, so they even let me go outside and do a few shots. But curbside pickup, that's basically buying things sight unseen. You might as well buy online and have it delivered to you rather than driving out there. Because I'm considering that. Rob, have you had any experience with speed boosters, either for photo or video? And also, which camera is your main video shooter? My main video shooter for the streams is the EM1 Mark II. When I go out and vlog, it's the EM5 Mark III. But that's only recently. Before the EM5 Mark III, I primarily shot with a Pen PL8 for my vlogging. That was my primary camera because you can attach a mic to it with a SEMA mic adapter. So that was my primary camera, the Pen PL8 with the 12mm f2. And then when the EM5 Mark III came out, that replaced it more recently. And for the streaming and video work, the tutorials, it's the EM1 Mark II. When I'm sitting behind a desk, I'll use that, and I can put this on a tripod. All right, man, my goodness, you guys are so generous today. Thanks again for all the super chat and donations. I really appreciate that. It says here, have you had any had any experience with speed boosters? Oh, I didn't finish answering your question. You asked about speed boosters, Kevin. I had a speed booster. I mean, I still have it. I just cannot find the frickin' thing. What's that? Is that it? No. Anyway, I can't find it. But I did buy a speed booster so that I could adapt vintage Nikon glass to it. Like I wanted to adapt my 50mm f1.4 so that it would become an equivalent 35mm f1, right? And but it's for photography, I don't think it's worth it. It's a very limited use case. It's kind of a one-trick pony, right? And for video work, I could see people that use it when you don't have to worry about autofocus, right? You can capture more light because what was very popular was using the 18 to 35 from Sigma together with a speed booster and mounting that to whatever camera. And I just never needed to do that. I don't need the best ISO, low ISO quality or whatever, for whatever reasons they were using it to get that wider field of view on their crop sensor cameras or to get more light via the speed function, what do they call it? Anyway, basically doubling the aperture, right? Gaining a stop of light. I've never had any specific application or need for that, and it just adds so much weight and losing the ability to autofocus. There was just too many barriers to general video work that I do, or too many compromises, I should say, to the general video work that I do, that it wasn't worth it for me. For very specific cases where you want that extra stop of light, you need that wider field of view, and you have that specific lens, adding a speed booster probably makes total sense, right? But to me, it's just an academic exercise. Yes, I can do this with this speed booster, but what do I really gain versus what am I losing? So I don't use speed boosters for anything, especially now since I can't even find the freaking thing. It's really stressing me. I spent like an hour one day looking for it. What is the problem? Is the speed booster looks like every other adapter I have on every lens, because I buy a lot of adapters because I don't like to swap adapters. I just want to swap the lens. Like I love this adapter. This is a little tilt adapter. This is a lot of fun, and I have this mounted to this ginormous fish eye. God knows why. Why would you use a tilt adapter on a fish eye? I don't know what I was thinking, but there it is. Yeah, Dickie's saying that the manual focus ring on the 75 to 300 is a little thin and loose. Um, yeah, honestly, any kind of focus by wire is a little tricky, and it doesn't help to have a thin focusing ring. Excuse me, I didn't think mine was loose though. Where is mine? I don't think it doesn't feel loose, but it's definitely focused by wire, right? I mean, I've done it before, but uh, not to any, not in practice though. I usually just autofocus. Rob, do you like the idea to travel to the Olympus factory in Vietnam, as suggested by Robin? The MFT Mafia team would be nice. Is Olympus could partially sponsor a trip? Huh. I did he mention that? It sounds familiar. My memory is just not very good. Um, I don't know if I would. I'd love to go on one hand. On the other hand, I don't like to travel um, outside of the continent here, and I would have mixed feelings about that because I would love to go to their factory, but then I'd have to go to Vietnam. I don't know if I want to do that. They have a corporate headquarters about 3 hours from me, actually right near Joe Edelman. Joe Edelman is right next to Olympus. Relative to me, he's a lot closer. And I'm thinking I was planning to do that actually in May, uh, when the weather's nicer, because it's cold here. Man, it's really cold in Pennsylvania. Let me tell you, just 3 hours north. So I told them because they invited me to come out, but I said, it's too freaking cold. I ain't going to Pennsylvania. I said, when it gets a little warmer, I'll come up there and see you guys. Because they have a steel factory right next to the Olympus corporate headquarters that's open to photographers and things, right? They do tours and all kinds of things. And I didn't want to do that in the frickin' winter time, freezing my butt off. So if this lockdown uh, gets lifted anytime in May, I may reach out to them again and say, hey, I'd love to come out and see your corporate office, meet some of the staff there, um, and then do a little networking, right? Potentially get some more contacts to see if I can, um, work with Olympus a little more directly. I mean, independently, of course, but that would be kind of fun. And then go to the steel factory and get some awesome shots of large whatever steam or steel factory has in it. Huge equipment, I assume. I was disappointed to hear that the upcoming non-pro 100 to 400 would not have weather sealing. It should have at least up to 14 to 250 level. I don't know what you mean by 14 to 250 level. I guess that's related to weather sealing? Or 14 to 150, I meant. Um, Interesting. I guess it might be difficult to weather seal a lens that large and not double the price. But I don't know. I haven't been following that lens because it's not a lens I'm gonna buy. I seriously doubt. I got my eyes on a 300 millimeter f4. That's probably the direction I'll go. But the 100 to 400, if it's sharp, um, people buy those skins for larger lenses that, in a way, kind of weather seals them. So I don't know why. I don't think it'd be as big a deal as you think. Not that the lens is not weather sealed, but I could be wrong. I'm not like a harsh. You know who would know is Rick. Rick could tell you if those weather seals that they put on, not the weather seals, but you know those skins that they put onto the lenses to cover it and protect it from inclement weather, are those any good? uh, but Rick has a question for me. He says, "Why am I afraid to travel outside the USA?" Yeah, Interpol, man. I gotta watch out for Interpol. Let me tell you. That's why I'm wearing dark colors. You know, I always need to be ready to kind of dodge off into a corner or shaded area, just in case they find me. One life, live it. No, I traveled once, Rick. I don't know if you've heard this story or if anyone's heard this story. Back in uh, late '90s, was it? It's sometime in the '90s. That's the last time I was on a plane. It was back in the 1990s, and yeah, I didn't like it. I did not like traveling. I went to Malaysia, Singapore. I only passed through Germany, so that doesn't really count because there was a stop there. So I did an airport tour of Germany, but primarily in Hong Kong, right? I went to Hong Kong. I didn't like it at all. Oh my God. Food was amazing, no question. Food was so good that, you pay the price for it though, as you know when you travel, right? But I didn't care. It was so good. But there was so much and I had fun when I got there. I really liked once I got there. It's just that process in between of flying on a plane for 20 hours. Oh, yeah. I I can't. Maybe if I can afford first class, I might consider it, but I'm not traveling in coach for 20 hours ever again in my life. That's all I can tell you. Um, Cleveland in winter, right? Wow. Yeah. Like I've said many times, I need to move south. Maybe North Carolina or South Carolina, Tennessee, where the weather's not so crazy. Like, the problem with being in this part where I live here, Pennsylvania, New York, it could be like a beautiful 75 degrees, sunny, and then, the next morning you have a freeze warning the next day. It's just because of the way the pattern is. We're kind of right on the cusp of something, two fronts. And it's nerve-wracking. It's like mentally it bothers me that, yesterday I'm out in my shorts and the next day I got my coat and hat. Okay. You guys sent me some pictures, even though I didn't ask for any this week. Is anybody here that sent pictures to me? Because I can review them, but I wasn't planning on doing that today. But I can. A Cessna 172 would be fun. Can't get as far, however. Time to move to Utah. No, I like the East Coast. Oh, here, okay, Rick has some feedback here. Weather coats for camera gear. They're a bit like when you put on an emergency plastic raincoat. Everything steams up and are only usable on a tripod. Perhaps I should do a review. Um, yeah, I have a raincoat for my camera. It was a gift from my nephews. I just haven't gone out in the rain to need it. Yeah, you can go ahead and upload now, Kostov. I'll save it towards the end of the stream. I don't want to. I don't know. Do you guys like the reviews I'm doing on the pictures? I don't know if you guys have seen any of those. It's like I said, it's really more about just sharing the images and what you guys are up to, and then I hack the crap out of them by cropping and things like that. But I try to give feedback, but my feedback is very limited in terms of I don't have 38 years of experience in photography. It's like I've been shooting since really 2012, so 7 8 years, um, and my level of my photographic eye or creative eye, so to speak, is not as developed as many of you out there. So, but it's still a little bit more than some of you too, right? So those are the kind of pictures I like to look at, ones that I have some level of or I have an edge, right? That I can give you constructive feedback. Because it's painfully obvious when a camera's or a picture's underexposed, uh, or when the horizon's crooked. Those kind of things I'm good at, right? But then when you start to get kind of a little artsy fartsy or creative, the criticism becomes less constructive and it just becomes more subjective. And uh, I don't want to discourage anybody from their creative talents or ability, by saying I don't like this, right? Because that it's a very subjective thing. At the same time, there's some pictures that I just don't like. No reason. They're technically perfect, and I'm sure, it's kind of like music. There's some types of music that I don't like, even though they're great. It's great music. It's just not my style. And photography can be like that, right? People have certain styles of photography. It just may not be my style. I don't like it. And then other photography I really like and other people hate. Doesn't mean photography is good or bad, right? It's just everybody has different taste. Oh, Craig, yeah. Yeah, I know. That's what I mean is like Craig saying he likes the reviews, but he misses the dialogue. Um, what I'd like to do is actually, if the person is available, um, is bring them in on Skype and we can talk about it together, right? And that would be kind of fun. Like somebody calls in with questions. Like I could give you my Skype address. I mean, it's no secret. It's rob@robtrek.com is my Skype. But I could actually answer the Skype call. You guys could come in, either audio only or with video. It doesn't matter, just like I do with the guests when I have them. That would be kind of fun to do too, I think. Oh, more dialogue when you have guests. Yeah, it's hard because the guests, I ask them questions, they answer. I ask them questions, they answer. I'll have to ask them before the stream, if they want to interact with uh, the chat section more than me talk to them and ask them questions. Um, where I just become a moderator because I think on the very first stream I did that right when I had like four guests or five guests, and I really focused on just them answering questions. I thought that was really went really well. And then subsequently, when I had guests, I tried to prep a little more and ask them questions and draw out some information. Like my last one with Joe Ellis and Jimmy Chang, I love that live stream personally because I got so much good information. And then we transitioned to doing the photo reviews for the editing, or photo reviews, it wasn't editing. And their feedback was so next level compared to mine. They saw things I could not possibly, I would never have seen or recommended or suggested. And I love that. I can't wait to get them back again and do those kinds of things. And being able to interact with the chat section would it would be a little bit awkward during that process. But I'll think about I just have to wrap my head around how to make that work and still be fluid. So I'll give that some thought though, Craig. I would love it if I could get more interaction. I mean, this is kind of a happy median where you guys are texting things in the chat section and I'm responding. Then I can address more of you at the same time. But when I have guests on, even if it's just one of you, a viewer coming in through Skype, uh, that's going to limit how many people I can get back to. Because there's something, like there's 80 some people here now, right? Some of you are just listening in the background. Some of you are here in the chat room. Um, and, I can't interact with 80 people at once, right? Yeah, Rick's saying get weatherproof cameras and lenses. The weather coats or whatever it was he called it are um, have their limitations, right? I guess you were talking about condensation, how things were steaming up, or okay, Kevin sent one. Okay, good. Rob, does Lightroom autocorrect the 8mm? No, it does not autocorrect. What I use is I use the lens profile, the Sigma 8mm fisheye lens as my custom profile. If you use that profile, then it'll correct about 95% of the distortion. And then I dial in a little bit of manual distortion, and then I saved it as a preset. I think I'm pulling it up now so I can tell you exactly, but that's worked out pretty well. And that's what I use professionally, actually, for my real estate photography. I may have shown you guys in a video like my workflow in real estate photography where I show you exactly the lens profile I use, but I don't know if I talked about it exactly. But let me go back to my last real estate job here. And where's my yeah. Stop it. Okay. Let me see. Why are there no images here? All right, here we go. Raw. I think these are the ones I delivered. Why are there so many JPEGs? Oh, because it's got my other crap in here. Did I flag them? Oh, here. Okay, here's one I did. They wanted some shots of the tables, showing the gear and the plugs and like this gas thing or whatever. But what did I use for where's my lens information? It's this one. I use a preset now. I saved it. Now I can't remember. Lens corrections, profile. Oh, here we go. None. That makes no sense. If I select this, Sigma 8mm, there it is. Sigma 8mm f3.5 EXDG circular fisheye. That's the profile I use, and then I dial in here distortion amount. It's normally 100. I dial in 115, and that's what I do. Yeah. It's kind of wonky because I've already applied the correction, but that's what I use to correct the fisheye. Um, where am I? Here we go. I don't know what button to push. Here we go. All right. So that was for Mike Hammerly. That's how I correct the fisheye in Lightroom for the 8mm fisheye lens. I was thinking about last week when you had your guests do photo reviews. Yes. Yeah, they're definitely. I would love to have more interaction with the community while I have guests on. Tony says the photo critiques are boring. Yeah, I'll try and save them to the end so you can kind of tune out when I get to those. Because before I was kind of doing them early on, right? I'd start out within the first half hour. I was deep into the critiques, and but I get it. Yeah. Rob straightens Gary Winogrand's photo. Who's Gary Winogrand? I really like appreciate how to presentations, not so much how much you do your presentations, referencing your post processing on other people's images. Okay, Frank. So another one that's not I'm having trouble reading it, but I think you're saying you're not big on the photo critiques either. I think that's what you're saying. It's not you're not a fan either. I'd be happy. Rick's saying he meant the photographer shouldn't wear a raincoat. Okay. Oh, Frank, that's a good question. Olympus seems to put emphasis on cold and wet. I live in the desert where it's 118 degrees. They just destroys anything plastic. Interesting. It's probably not just the heat, right? It's the constant bombardment of ultraviolet light onto the plastic from the sun with that kind of intensity. Because I think 118 degrees, so the camera might get up to 150. I think the operating temperature of the camera is probably within its limits still, but I get that. Yeah. How do you shoot longer shots in such heat? Oh, you're not talking to me. Oh, you're welcome, Mike. Um, Gary Winogrand is a famous USA street photographer known for less than straight. Okay. Okay. Where are we at here? I started at what, 11? Are we 2 hours into this stream? Holy crap. Um, okay. So what I'm going to do, if there's any other questions, ask them now because I think I'll transition into the photo reviews. So I know not everybody's a fan of those, but for those of you that want to see me do some photo editings or critiques, that'll be coming up here in a few minutes. So what I'll do is I'm going to go to a commercial break while I download the photos and organize them so I can put them up on the screen. And then I'll review some photos. So chime in now if you actually submitted one, so I can definitely try to do those first. Kostov is one, right? Oh, you're welcome, Dave. Yeah, Dave, I'll definitely try and make the next. Uh, how did that go? But well, I'll talk to you outside of the stream. But you did a Zoom conference or something, right, in the photo club last weekend, and I missed, or yesterday, and I missed it. I just woke up too late. So Kevin Pumala, and Kostov. So a couple of K names today. Okay, David. Oh, and soft to be fun. Okay. Okay. All right. So everyone that I appreciate you coming in. If you want to stick around for the photo critiques and my editing, you're welcome to do so. But I'm going to transition into that. And but if you're going to head out, like Tony, I'm sure, and Frank, no big deal. We'll catch you on Thursday. Really, Kevin Pumala? Is that hard to say? I said it right? I don't know. But that's good. I'm glad I got it right. I mess up people's names all the time, right? Okay, so I'm going to take a quick commercial break, download the images if there's no other questions, and then we'll do a little bit of photo editing. Um, I grabbed yours just at the last second there, but I did get one. All right, this one says okay, this is a nice image. Now, yeah, again, always let me preface that everybody can see and hear me, right? Um, excuse me. Let me preface, as an architectural photographer, I'm always looking for lines, angles, and when I crop, I usually crop out things in the edges because I'm used to doing things like that. So my eye is my brain is kind of wired that way. Uh, so just keep that in mind. It may mess up the image, but the way my brain is wired, I think it's better, right? But that's just how I am. So and all the other caveats, it's all very subjective what we do. Is this one yours, soft to be fun? Okay. Let's see. This one really all it needs is a little dehaze because you have good lines here in the corners. The corners are just right. Um, so it must have been a hazy day because I don't think the camera took it like I don't think the camera caused this to be hazy. I think it's just a hazy day. Um, and then I would try and bring the shadows up. I should figure out a way to let you guys submit raw files because then I could get really, really into it. But all I would do here is really just add a little dehaze. I don't see any cropping or crooked horizon things. Um, so just crank the dehaze up like that. Maybe add a tiny bit of clarity just to bring the contrast in a little better. And just add a tad of contrast too. Why not? Um, fire in the east. Yeah, this is a beautiful picture. And I think I need to move over a little. I'm having a hard time looking at the image because it's way off to my left here. All right, I like the way the sun is hitting this rock, and all of this is kind of dark. If I had the raw image, I would bring out the bottom, the shadows a little more. Because I could bring the shadows up in a JPEG, but of course it's going to, it's not going to be as good as, say, a RAW file. Oh, I see some grass here, so you must have been standing right about here. Whoops. Actually, if I mess with the tone curve a little, I've never done this in my streams with you guys, but sometimes I play with the tone curve. So I want to kill some of the blacks. Like this. And then I think on hue, I'd like the blues, because there's a strong blue haze in here when I did all that. So if I had to change the hue, I would change it more magenta. Just the blue part. Yeah, that's getting there. And that's more purple than magenta, but it's kind of in that's the direction I would go. And then let me see if adding magenta in the white balance helps. No, that looks fake. Maybe warm it up a tiny bit. Yeah, I like that. My tone curve is a little bit a little bit too strong. Oh, I jacked it up. Here we go. That's what I meant to do. This, let me bring this back up. Okay, I think that's all I would do to this image. Let's do a quick comparison. So yeah, basically I warmed it up and messed with the curves a little bit to make make it a little more contrasty and less hazy. Yeah, I like that. I like this mountain line. I wonder if cropping this like a different way too. I mean, it's no need to crop it, but I like really wide crops sometimes. I think that makes a more interesting image too. So there you have it. That to me is pretty cool. That makes a beautiful shot. And you know, when working with the raw image, you could do a lot more in terms of the shadows and highlights and colors. But with just the image was captured really well. That even working with the JPEG, it wasn't too hard to make these kinds of adjustments. And that's why I always push. You know, try to get the exposure the best you can in camera first, and then it makes editing and post-processing even easier. And this is a great example of being able to edit a photo that's been exposed well, because I didn't have to do too many tweaks, and this would look 10 times better as a working with the raw file, because I'm seeing a tiny bit of color noise when I brought it in the shadow areas here, but it's something that's easily fixed, because I don't think I have yeah, I don't have noise reduction working with JPEGs in Workspace. Microphone suggestion for the EM5 Mark II. I would definitely I like this one, the Rode Mic Go. This is great, and then buy like a cheap lav mic for it or an expensive one. I mean, the mic that's built into it is not bad. You probably can't see what I'm showing you here. But this Rode Mic Go is excellent. You know, this is what I would recommend. And I get about 4 hours of battery life on it, so just keep that in mind. Sometimes that's not enough. All right. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay. This one was submitted a while ago. I think this was a people shot for like Jimmy and Joe. They would give you really good feedback on this. I kind of like this guy in the background. If he was walking a little bit further in and looking in her direction, I think that would be an interesting shot. If he walked in out of this pole and was looking at her. But since that's not the case, I'm going to crop that guy out. But I don't know, it still adds to the image a little bit, right? Even with him only kind of partially in the picture, but I don't like it that he's all. And I think a vertical. And then I would do this in black and white. Definitely. And oops, let me put this over here. So as a vertical, we need to crop in just a little more. Yeah, that's looking good. And then we'll just crank in some, let me see what dehaze does. Dehaze usually does a good job at making the black and whites nice and crispy. Tiny bit of clarity. Clarity I'm usually very conservative on. I think that's all I would do to this image. So there's the before and after. So I just kind of got rid of all of the distractions. It's just too bad this guy, if he was standing over here, well, if he was standing here or over here, that would be a much more interesting image than even this. But I think the way this looks good. All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh, I like this. Lauren says, do not crop this street photograph type image. Okay. Hold on, let's go back. Lauren makes a good point. You know, these kind of street photos are more environmental shots, right? So how do I reset the crop here? So sometimes, right, you do want to capture all of this environment as part of the street photo, because the way I cropped it, it's more like a portrait, right? It's not really a street shot anymore. So I get that. I could agree with that. But I think either way, it still looks better as a black and white to me, because all these colors are just cut off. This is what bothers me though, is this pole cutting this person off, cutting that person off. So that's why I cropped it out. But that's a valid point though about capturing the environment in a street photo. That is really a part of the story, and it's very important. But all these elements to me are just now distracting. So I turned it into a portrait, I guess. You think the obstruction makes it interesting. Hmm. I don't know. I get it though. You know, you're allowed to break rules and make a photo. Uh, but yeah, like I said, don't take my word for it. You know, it's as as a rule, right? If anything, do everything opposite of what I say. But if it were my image, this is how I would edit it. But that shows my kind of lack of experience, maybe, right? In photography in general. I'm going more for the classic, you know, type image that you would do as a beginning photographer. All right, so let's move on. Yeah, this is a more recent one. I think one of you guys just submitted this, right, James? I like this the way it is. I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I might crush the blacks a little bit more. Just bring this. I would just bring the blacks in a little more. That's it. How about something in the mid-tone? Let me punch in. There's a little bit of. Yeah, it's a beautiful shot though. I like this the way it is. So all I did was crush the blacks a little bit because it was a little bit light on my monitor. I could see like from here to here. I could see that there was it wasn't pitch black, like totally black. But that's all I would do. But I like it. Hi, Ellie. Hi, baby. Ellie came in. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Is this for real? I'm the last McDonald's cheeseburger sold in Iceland in 2009. That's the thing. I see these like photos of people that are photos of McDonald's food, like that's been sitting there for years and years, and it looks like it just came off the, you know, like it was just served to you, and you wonder what they put in it to make it stay looking fresh for so long. It's amazing. God, I'm getting hungry now. Oh. Yeah, Rick makes a good point. Rob's an architectural photographer. He likes rules. Yeah, I know. I'm an artist. I like to break the rules, but knowing the rules is a great starting point. Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely learn what the rules are and then break them. Right? How do you know if you're breaking them if you don't know what the rules are? Right? That's how the law works. Right? Ignorance is not an excuse. Anyhow, uh, this shot doesn't need any editing the way it is. Honestly, it's about this the subject and the message here. I mean, if I wanted to make it a little bit more appealing, I might try an art filter just for fun. Let me think. A good art filter for this would be, I would go, wow, I was thinking, of course I'm thinking vintage, right? But then that would kind of contradict the fact that we're supposed to be present day. What I would do, let me look at the art filters. We have, only thing that might make it kind of interesting is maybe a partial color filter. I'm thinking partial color or instant film. So if we go hard on the partial color, what color are those fries? How come I'm not getting it? Are there no colors? Come on. Why isn't my partial color working? Maybe partial color 2? Let's try. That's, no. 1. Yeah, I guess I have to go with the number 2. It's kind of the degree of separation between partial colors 1, 2, and 3. Let's see what yellow does. It's a lot of yellow in the photo. Partial color is not working too well here. So instant film. That's all I would do. If the colors were a little bit stronger, I think that's all this needs. It's just the instant film filter. Because otherwise, you know, there's no point to cropping or moving things around. Okay, let's go to the next one. Why is this guy's wallet hanging out? Man, that's dangerous. I would never leave my wallet on a pier where it could just drop. Especially when you're like focused on the birds and you're not focused on your own wallet anymore. That, but yeah, I don't know what I would do here. I feel like, let me think for a second. And if anybody has ideas, you know, chime in, please. But I'm just not seeing anything. I like this row of birds down here. This is kind of interesting, but the subject is right here, right? And this kid is not looking. He's looking at the birds. I got nothing. I mean, I could go black and white, right? Because there's not a ton of color in here. You have a blue hat, kind of bluish water, then white birds, and a black shirt. So there's no reason to leave it in color. I don't think grainy works, but I would go black and white, basically. Grainy black and white too works. You know, a regular vintage 1 would look good. Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd do a vintage 1. So we'll compare before and after. But I think that looks a lot better because this image on the left looks too snapshotty, meaning like you could take this with your cell phone or something. It doesn't have any kind of life to it by itself, but putting it in this vintage film look now makes it a little more classy looking, I think. I don't know. I like that though. But that's all that does. Or that's all I would do to it, so to speak. But I like the framing, and I like the wide crop. Ooh, this pizza looks good. Man, I'm getting hungry. I have to work faster here. All right, let's go to the next one. Needs horizon straighter. Maybe. Let's check the horizon. I mean, horizons are always tough when you have boats in the water. It is tough. Having the big bite out of the burger on the right side. Oh, yeah, on the other thing, yeah. On the McDonald's photo. I mean, I could see cropping this a tiny bit this way because the only straight line is really right down in here. But even with piers, you know, wood isn't always straight either, but that's... I mean, that helps a little, but okay, let's move on. Why isn't this showing? Oh, beautiful. Nice little macro shot with some water droplets. I don't like this one drop here being kind of fuzzy, but this looks good. Let me see on the curve. It just needs a little bit more. I would just give a little more punch this way in the curve. And then throw in a pop art, maybe 2. No, that looks stupid. Yeah, no, forget it. I think we're good here. I'd make it a little more red though. Now we're just getting kind of subjective, but just warm it up slightly. And because it's a little bit cool, I guess it was kind of in the shade, and maybe you're using a flash to illuminate it. Maybe. I'm not sure. But I would warm it up like so. Just so it looks like it just rained, now the sun came out. Yeah, I think that's all I would do. I'd be done. Very simple edit. There's kind of a before and after. So I just increased the contrast a tiny bit and warmed it up. But everything else looks good. If I had Photoshop, I'd brush out this one little drop here. This is not catching the light right and causing a flare or something. It's very different than the rest of these drops, right? But yeah. Good. Let's move on. Oh, see, here's a good partial color. I feel like it's I like just this part here with the little swan down here, and the tree is nicely framing the swan. I would probably, yeah, I would crop all of this other stuff out. This is not adding anything to the image for me. Because the only interesting thing here, I mean, all of these buildings are messed up by the tree line, so there's nothing interesting here. The sky isn't half bad. So really, if I cut this picture in half, you'd have two pictures. One of them really good, the other one just a picture. So for me, this is kind of where the picture is. So let me pick. I would go right here. That to me is the shot. I mean, I'd like to crop out all of these buildings too, actually, or houses. But I think that would crop it a little bit too much. So I might need to do a wider. I keep using 16:7, right? That's a little bit too much crop. Where's the 16:9? Yeah, I think this is a little more reasonable. All right. Ew, I don't know. I kind of like the other crop that I had actually. Even with this house line in the back, it's still better. Something like this. If I could just maybe. Ron says he doesn't like the bottom of the tree cut off. Looks like I'm forcing it. Yeah, a little bit. I agree. Of course, you know, I'm trying to get this corner in. All right, I think that's what I would do. What do you guys think? Because the vertical didn't work for me. Maybe a little bit straightening on the horizon because this line here. Oh, come on. I mean, this line here, it probably is crooked in real life, but I would straighten it. I mean, I'm looking at these houses back here to see if I can. That's not straightened. This is straightened. There. I think that. Still a tiny bit off. Right there. Okay. So it's too bad there's so much detail in the back. It takes a lot of the eye attention from the ideal focal point. Yeah, Kevin. I don't know, Ron. What do you think now? I think that works, kind of. I mean, I'm not crazy about this corner here. Is a little bit off for me, but really the focus is right here anyway on the swan. And this is a little, I need a little more room down here too. Can I get a little wider? I cannot. That's about as good as it can get. Okay, Ron, thanks. Anyone else? I think that's what I would do though. You know, always pay attention to your backgrounds, right? If they add anything, but in this case it's kind of killing the image because all of this is a mess up here. So when you frame things, think about, you know, would I take a picture of that in the background if it was by itself? And if the answer is no, try and exclude it from the image. You know, because like I would not take a picture of this up here. But okay, good shot though. I like the partial color with the what is that, a cherry blossom or something, right? All right, let's see what we have here. Ooh, okay. Looks like he used a soft focus filter. What's going on with this glass? Definitely some processing going on because it gets very soft up in here, but then it's very sharp in here. Yeah, Kasav, yeah, the edges are not straight. So I was, when I was aligning that last picture, I was using the buildings in the background to be straight and not that line on the water. As soon as I saw it was kind of rounded, Yeah, it's hard to straighten a horizon with weird, weird shapes. So if there's a building in the picture, then I try to align things with the building. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I don't care what cameras you guys submit pictures to. It's not about the camera, right? We're talking about just uh, the photo itself. Um, so feel free to submit any picture. I don't care if it's your iPhone or TG5 or Nikon, doesn't matter. I like this picture. Something's throwing me off though. I just feel like this weird purple in the sky was kind of thrown in post-processing. It just doesn't look like a natural part of this image. This is the only part I don't really like about the picture is all of this purple. And as far as the shed, what are you saying, Ron? Crop out the shed on the left. Oh, this one. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And yeah, Rick is right. This is beautiful. I really like this building here. So we'll just take this out. I'm not crazy about this purple, but I think what is this cropped in? Is this a 16 by 9? No, it's a 4 by 3, isn't it? Wow, okay. I'm just seeing things. If I go 16 by 9, that might be too tight. Yeah, that's probably too tight. I just want, yeah, that's too tight. I think the original 4 by 3 crop was good. And then just take out that shed. And I'm going to get rid of this purple. So I'm going to go to saturation and pick purple. What is that? That's kind of a purplish magenta. I don't know if I can do it without messing up the shed. Hold on. That helps. That helps a little bit. Because I'm able to take out the purple because there's no purple in the shed. The main building was a small little workshop building. Okay. Yeah, I think a black and white would look good too, but I really like this brown in the wood. If the wood was all like one kind of gray color, I'd probably go black and white in a heartbeat. But I think the fact that this part here has really nice yellows in it really adds to the feel of this building. So Rick says, try cropping right into textures of the shed. Forget the whole. Go for the abstract. Yeah, you're thinking cut this part out, right? I was thinking about that too. But I kind of like the way this hangs off over in here. You know, this roof line? You're thinking go much tighter. Okay, we can try that. I like this roof line though. You know, this symmetry between this little roof line and this, you have two triangles. You know I like triangles, right? So I'm kind of leaning that way, but I can try it. I can try it. Let's see. Um, wait, that's not it. Here it is. I mean, I could see going in really tight, like this. Maybe does that still give enough? I would go a little bit narrower. I think the 16:9 crop might work on this. If I really want to crop in, how about that? I don't know, Rick. Is that what you had in mind? Something like that? That doesn't look right to me, though. Add a small amount of dark gradient. Oh, I don't have gradients in workspace. I mean, all I can do is mess with the curves a little bit. Yeah, I'm not crazy about this crop either. I'm missing what Rick is trying to tell me, maybe. Let's go back to the original 4x3. And a vertical. Maybe. Yeah, I don't have enough headroom. Maybe a 1x1. Ooh, no, I don't like that. Yeah, I think the original 4x3. Stop doing that. And then take out that one little shed in the corner. And this purple. Much tighter, 1/4 the size. Forget it's a building, just show the wood and glass. Okay. I could do that. If I'm gonna go in that tight though, I think black and white would work. All right, we're gonna try it Rick's way one time and then we'll move on. Let me see. Okay, something like this. Maybe I'm a little bit too tight. Let me get the edge of this roof. How about up here? I mean, there's so many interesting things in here. I'm sorry, there's some lag in here. I'm not getting your suggestions as fast as I'm editing. But right in there. I think that's all I think that's what Rick is talking about. 1/4. Just show some wood and glass. So you're suggesting maybe no grass either. I don't think we got enough resolution to do that. But maybe that. Since we're cropped in so much, we're gonna need some I think that kind of works. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go with this one, right? What if we go further down and capture some of the grass? Oh, I like that better. I don't know why. All right, I'm gonna have to move on because I think this image has so much potential, a lot of different ways. But I like the tight crop because you can kind of see what's going on inside a little better. Whereas over here, there's something going on, but it's not important. But when you're over in the right side cropped in tight, now what's inside is a lot more important and interesting, even if it's just the broken wood from the roof. And I like the fact that I captured some grass here. I think it adds something. Um, but yeah, I think, oops, I think, I think ultimately this is my favorite. I think what Rick suggested works. Just go in tight and capture this window, the crap inside. That's what I would have done. It's just we lost so much resolution at this point that it won't make for a really nice print. It says, by the way, you're on Top Chat, which slows your chat display. Oh, okay, thank you. There we go. Let's try that live chat. See, I'm an amateur. Okay, let's move on. I definitely work with that image more, and if you can go back to that spot, really explore that whole area. You know, take a lot of different pictures up tight, further away, and so you can get some detail, and then you can get some wider shots. That because this area is really kind of a neat place photographically speaking. All right, we have a mushroom. I've never, you know, I see pictures of this kind of mushroom, but I've never seen one in real life that look like this. But all this needs is a little bit of contrast. Oh, okay. So that was it, huh, Rick? Yeah, I like that shot too. The way it ended up the shed. Okay. I only got about 5 minutes of battery life left, so if my battery cuts out, you can still hear me. You just won't see me. Uh, this is cost John. Okay, John. Um, no, that's too much. That's ridiculous. Let's try. Let's back it off a little bit. No. Sorry, I'm just experimenting a little. I think I think this is good the way it is. There's not much else. I would just warm it up a little bit. It's because it's in the shade again. I would just warm it up a little. Just make it a little bit. Okay, soft. I'll catch you next week. Thanks for coming in. Slightly desaturate the lower right. Yeah, I don't have any options to selectively change things. I have to apply everything to the whole image using workspace. Yeah, Kevin, I agree. There's a lot going on with that shed picture, right? Or work shed. Okay, this is a nice shot, John. I There's not much to be done, just a little more contrast to make it warmer. But I wouldn't do anything else. And again, I'm just capturing them as or I'm just editing them as they're captured. I'm not really good at recommending. This is kind of cool. Uh, oh, it's okay, Ron. Yeah, Workspace is a very limited editor. I have to apply everything to the whole image. Um, yeah, it's a street shot. This would look good in black and white too. Let's add a green filter to brighten up this guy. And I would straighten it a little bit. Well, I don't know. Some of the I mean, I don't want to do every image in black and white. Let me Rick is I can't believe Rick is suggesting a vintage filter. 'Cause he's always harping on me. No. Vintage 3. No. I don't feel like these vintages are working, to be honest. Vintage 1 was the best out of the 3. Okay, awesome. Honestly, I like the black and white better. But let me... No. Okay. I don't think it needs crop. Well, you know, I would crop this blue sign out, but then somebody will say I need to keep it in there. Me personally, I would crop that blue sign out. If I would crop this part of the sign out and this part. I'm just going to do it because that's what I would do if it were my picture. Like so. That's all I would do. I guess the vintage filter looks all right. And then just straighten it a little bit. So get this pole straight, kind of. There. Oh, vintage was for the magic mushroom? Okay. So that's what I would do here. Like I said, I'm not sure the vintage filter is really working. So if I take the vintage filter off, I have to fix my curves again. Well, just maybe right there and right there. And oh my God, we're at 3 hours. Okay, that's all I would do. I would crop out that little bit of blue. Let me show you the before and after. That's what I would do. Basically straighten it and take that piece out and this little blue piece out on the right. And then go black and white. I don't know, I just don't like I don't like that freaking green guy. I mean, I know that takes away the whole story of this picture, but I hate that green guy. Hate this guy. Look at that green outfit. That's just... But yeah, don't do black and white for this kind of image, but... all right, let's see what we got here. Okay. Everything is perfectly straight, so I'm happy. And it's black and white. I would not change a thing here, man. This is a picture I would take, actually. No question. This is exactly the kind of picture I would take. So good job. Kostov, right? Yeah. Good job. I wouldn't change a thing. Everything is straight. But that's just me. My God, how many photos did you submit, Kostov? Let's see, what's this? Too many will kill too. Oh, see, Rick knows that stuff. That mushroom is a hallucinogenic, so that's what they mean by the shrooms or mushrooms. Ooh, this is a nice shot. It just needs more contrast. Little dehaze to add some texture. Actually, a lot there. and bring this down to about here. Oh, there's some kind of purple tones in it. That's interesting. See, I didn't see that with the original image until I brought the tone curve in a little bit. And it's just a little off center. The center here. So I would just crop it just a little bit. And that's all I would do to that. Maybe a tiny bit of clarity. Yeah, that's what I would do there. Nice picture though. Whoops. Let's see before and after. But there you go. It's just I like punchy images, so I would definitely put some contrast. That's what I do. Like on 90% of my images, I add contrast to them. Ironically, my real estate photos, I take the contrast down. So I need a little softer look. But on images like this, I would definitely bring up the contrast. Okay, let's see. Last one. All right. You'd crop it tighter, huh, Ron? Yeah, maybe. Oh, Sotris. Yeah, don't worry about clipping. It's okay to clip certain parts of the image. I mean, it's fine to clip here and the edges of the rows or whatever this is. Long as if it's clipping more than 5% of the image, I would start to be a little concerned. But this is like 1% of the image we're clipping, so I wouldn't worry about it. Okay. This one here, yeah, again, the contrast. Oh, you meant highlight clipping. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the highlight clipping. Wow, that was a 22,000 ISO. I didn't even look at I'm not even looking at the details or the EXIF data, but this looks like, let's see. This just needs contrast. And I would do, I would just do that. And I feel like it's a little crooked. So let me find the vertical. Yeah, this vertical is a little bit off. So I would straighten it. I mean, it's okay if this is a little bit off because these are shingles, but this building needs to be straight. And this is okay at a little bit of an angle. I think that works. And then some saturation and a little bit of warmth. And definitely some saturation. Yeah, I think that works. I'm getting a lot of red roses. Black and white and a little dehaze. You think, I don't know, I think the colors, I like this orange. I mean, black and white would definitely work, but I really like the way this brick and this orange, all of these things are working for me. But we'll try black and white, but let's just do a quick compare what I did so far. So basically I straightened it and cranked up the saturation and contrast, and that brings out a lot of the detail in this statue, and it makes this orange and the brick punch, really pop, I think. That's what I would do. Now, black and white, I agree, would probably look really good too. Since we have color, we might want to use a blue filter here to offset that orange. So I'm going to try. Oh, we don't have blue? I'm spoiled by the Pen F, I think. Let me see. So we'll try a green filter. So we'll do green, or maybe I'm thinking of green. Anyway, green. Let's see how that looks. I mean, that works too, but I honestly, I like the, I like my color better. I like the color version better. Just needed more pop. What do you guys think? You guys like the black and white better, or? Yeah, it's always, yeah, so true. It's fun to add some color. I did notice that. I like that, the color that you put into your rose. Um, yeah, Johan likes the color too. What's that about architectural photographers? Yeah, yeah, everybody's kind of with me that on that, right? The color was better. I think so too. We'll go back to that. So, yeah, to me that works better in color. Definitely. And we'll do a sand. I love the 16 by 9 crop. It's nice and wide. I mean, I would potentially take out this pole here. Uh, but then I would probably lose the base that the guy's standing on here, and I would lose a little bit too much of this. I think all of this really is part of it. So is this too, right? All of this is really part of it. All the bird crap on the pole, and yeah, I love this shot though. I love the really strong colors. You think the color overshadows the sculpture? Oh, hey, well, how are you? How long you been here, man? You haven't said a word for 3 hours. um, no, I think I can see where you think the color's overpowering, but I like it. I like the way it is. I mean, maybe a little less color, so I can turn the saturation down a bit. I mean, we can go the whole opposite way, right? And just do muted colors like that. That's not bad either, right? That looks pretty decent. And then I would actually, if we're gonna desaturate, I would go a little bit cooler on the white balance. I would definitely go cooler. So that's what I would do. If we're gonna go less color, I would go a little bit cooler instead of warmer. And I think that looks, at least needs just a little more contrast. I'll just manually drag it in. But yeah, I would do that. So that looks good to me too, actually. To go muted or to go super strong. Those are the two ways I would go. But okay, whose picture is that? Verona. I don't know if you're here or not. What was the color on the day? It looks too orange. Colorized black and white. I don't know. What do you guys like? The muted color or the more saturated look? I'm leaning towards this less saturated look, a little more muted color look. I think that looks really good, actually. Hmm. But okay, we're gonna call it, I think. So you guys, yeah, Johannes, right? You like a muted more? Yeah, Kevin. Like I said, I think it works either way. Yeah, my battery's gone. So we went 3.5 hours on one battery. Uh, so you guys, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Uh, question is, how do I choose muted or saturated? It's just personal preference. Uncle Ken Rockwell is saturated by style. Yeah, it's just personal preference. I liked both, but I think I preferred the muted one a little more on that last image. Um, definitely, I think that looked better to me. So anyway, you guys have a good week. I'll be back on Thursday, and definitely send some more pictures in. I think I'll save it to the end so that people that don't want to look at the pictures can, we can chit chat, and then when we're ready to do pictures, you guys can come in later towards the end. What do you guys? Let me know what you guys think of that, and then. But otherwise, we'll catch up with you next week. All right. Thanks for coming in.